Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Alex, the head of product and co-founder of Cuvama. Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you, Christian. How are you today?
Nice to meet you. I'm doing very well and excited to see your solution. Please tell us, what is Cuvama?
Yeah, so Cuvama stands for Customer Value Management. And what we're doing is we help B2B companies, primarily B2B SaaS companies, we help them to sell the value of what they do. So in the world of B2B sales, a lot of people want to communicate the value, the business value that they deliver, rather than just the product and the features and functionality. But although a lot of people want to do that, it's a hard thing to do, and Cuvama is focused on helping to get that B2B sales organization to sell the value and outcomes rather than selling product and features.
Yeah. And are you a SaaS yourself?
Yes. So we provide a SaaS platform that integrates with a CRM system that the salespeople are using, but we do also provide consulting to go with it. So it's SaaS and services because for the kind of the solution, the overall solution that we're providing, the salespeople, in our customers, the salespeople have to use it and adopt it. So there's a certain amount of best practices that go around that, and we also help our customers to actually understand their value proposition. So we help them translate the features and functionality in their product into the business outcomes that they drive for their customers. So some of that is centers around services.
So you're a master of this. So please tell us, what are your features?
Yeah. So that's the key thing. So we would. I shouldn't talk about my features. I should talk about the value that we deliver. And we use our own product to sell our own product. So some kind of good examples as we engage and talk to other B2B SaaS companies. Firstly, you find a lot of them don't have any documentation, don't have anything written down about what are the problems that they solve. And actually we work with a lot of other startups. So we work with startups, as they're hitting that scale up phase. So as the co-founders they've got some investment, they've got to Series A, and they now need to hire a sales team and really scale the business. So a really common problem for those co-founders is they've got in their heads, they know what their product does, and they know the value that it delivers to their customers. But when you're hiring 10 new salespeople, how do you get those new salespeople to go out and discover and communicate the value? And the key challenge is, the key focus that we have is that it's not always just a simple, repeatable thing. So, if it was a simple value proposition where you could just write it on one simple PowerPoint slide, you wouldn't need us. But where we really fit is where we're helping a company whose product solves different problems for different industries or for different personas. So maybe the value it adds to the CFO in the end customer is different than the value it adds to the sales leader, etc. So we help that co-founder, help that leader codify that value proposition so a salesperson can go out and sell it. We help make it really easy for the salesperson. So it's integrated with their CRM. They can kind of click to create a new discovery, and they kind of go through a guided process. We help make it collaborative with the customer so they can share access with the prospect. So when the salesperson is interacting with the prospect, they can invite the prospect to collaborate on what are the business problems they're looking to solve and the outcomes they're looking to drive, and it then starts to become an ongoing success plan. A success plan that then flows into the customer success department. So again, at each of those points, kind of in that flow, there's a number of different areas where it often, in the world today, it often breaks. There's disconnects, there's things that don't work, and Cuvama is helping to kind of smooth all of that and help you kind of manage your customer value.
Understand. I now understand better. And can you share with us some successful use cases or something like that?
Yes. So our first customer is a company called Zealous, who are they're a software company based in the UK. They are owned by, they're private equity owned. They're owned by Bain Capital themselves. And Zealous, I think, have revenues around 150 million to 200 million pounds per year. So they're a good size. About 50 salespeople. And I guess a successful use case is they are using Cuvama in their sales process to actually do better discovery with their customers, to better uncover each of the companies that they're selling to. And they by the way, they sell HR and payroll software. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they help other companies with HR and payroll. And they use our platform, our Cuvama platform, to help discover the specific business problems that the company is looking to, the end prospect is looking to solve, and to map out the outcomes they're looking to drive. So is it employee retention? Is it reducing payroll errors? Is it in customer or employee satisfaction? And then they turn that into a business case of how much pounds of saving per year or extra revenue it might be worth to that end customer.
Yeah.
And they've used that to drive an increase to their win rate. So they're actually they've seen that where they do a discovery properly using Cuvama, they see a higher win rate, they see a higher deal size. So actually they find that they're able to sell more modules, they're able to effectively selling more of their solution to their customers. And the other key driver that they've seen is that the salespeople who are most adopting this have got a kind of a larger pipeline. That they're not just kind of increasing the win rate by qualifying out of deals, they're actually uncovering more customers, getting more companies into their pipeline. So lots of kind of great results.
So you sell to both enterprise and startups, right?
Yes. That's
awesome.
We started out selling to enterprise. And this is a really interesting thing for other startups. So we went through the classic kind of situation where as a startup, you think you know your customers.
Yeah.
You think you know your market. So we initially thought, okay, our market will be enterprise companies with sales teams that are at least 50 in size, at least a certain amount of revenue, at least a certain amount of maturity. And whilst that definitely is a market, we've uncovered it's certainly not the only market.
Yeah.
And over the last year, so we're still quite early, but over the last year, we've signed up 5 startups and they've started to work with us. So these are other companies that are some of them are just before Series A, a couple of them are maybe just after Series A, much, much earlier in their kind of maturity. But but they have the same problem. They have the same need to communicate the value to their customers. And they have different problems in that whereas a company like Zealous that has 50 salespeople, it's all about driving the consistency across those 50 salespeople. But for a startup looking to scale, it's much more about making sure that those first 5 salespeople they hire are going to be successful because they can't afford to miss. They've got to be more effective with less resources. So there is kind of slight differences in the need. So we've been really investigating that as a second market for us. And honestly, we're now at the stage where we are evaluating: do we bet on one segment or do we go after both? And as a startup ourselves, we have this trade-off of if you try to do too much, you'll spread yourself too thinly. But equally, you don't want to narrow down before you're confident. You don't want to kind of close off any paths and close any doors until you really know you've got the right path to allow you to scale aggressively. So that's where we're at.
But are you the first platform to solve this problem?
Yes and no. It's so in the world of B2B sales, the idea of selling on value and the idea of a salesperson discovering the problem and then articulating what is the value, that's not new at all. That's been around for 20 years. You can kind of go on Amazon and buy B2B sales methodology books, of which there are hundreds of thousands. There are hundreds of consulting companies around the world focus on sales methodology. And they will all include some element of discovering the pain and communicating the value. So it's not new. There have been certain technology platforms around for almost 20 years as well that have been trying to solve this problem. But there are a few big differences. A lot of those technology platforms, which are kind of competitors to us, but equally I'm going to explain why they're also not a direct competitor. A lot of them have focused on this problem purely as a sales exercise. So you're kind of trying to use value to close the deal, to get the deal. But in the world of subscription, if all you do is win that customer, but then they churn after a year, you actually, more often than not, lose money. So in the world that we operate in now, it's customer value management is not just about selling the value to win the customer and to close the deal and to get it closed. You've actually got to ensure that that customer is then achieving value ongoing. So it's more of an ongoing relationship. It's the way that you engage with that customer ongoing. So some of the platforms that have been kind of trying to crack this space for the last 20 years, they've had much more of a pure sales focus, and Cuvama and one or two others view this as, no, this is more of a customer methodology. So yes, you start with sales, but it has to flow into customer success. And so there are a few competitors, but that like us, that are a little bit newer to thinking about this in the right way. And there are also some other differences as well. There are tools out there that focus on more of just the kind of the numeric quantification, as in more like an ROI calculator. Occasionally if you're looking for a mortgage or a loan or a credit card, you might get a calculator online as a consumer. And often if you're buying a business product, you might see an ROI calculator where you plug in some numbers and it promises you a huge amount of money. Again, there are some companies out there that are trying to solve the problem like that. But our view is that, no, that's actually the wrong way of doing it. A salesperson needs to actually discover the prospect's problem first, and go through a discovery process. It's a conversation. It's not just rushing to dollars. So it's a long-winded way of saying yes and no. Yes, we have some competitors, but it's still quite an immature space that is growing, and we're looking to influence. We're looking to influence the way that the market thinks about the solution and thinks about the problem.
And what is the story of Cuvama? The founding, when did it start? The idea?
Yeah, so there's three of us as co-founders. We all had kind of connections before. Primarily, I worked with my main co-founder, MG, who's my CEO. I worked with him at a previous company, and we worked in pricing, and so we have a kind of a background in helping companies with their monetization in terms of the price that they charge and the way that they package their solution. And at times in our career, we'd also started to get involved in this kind of value management and quantifying the value. And obviously, in the world of pricing, you think about the price you're going to charge versus the value you're going to deliver. So they're kind of two sides of the equation. So we had a lot of experience and a kind of exposure to this. And then the point at which we founded Cuvama, we actually started out initially doing just purely consulting work. So we really kicked off technically in 2017, but I think it was more kind of 2019 I joined, and we actually kind of founded the business, and we were doing just initially pure consulting work. So helping, again, B2B SaaS companies to solve this problem, but by solving it through consulting, through delivering big PowerPoint presentations of here's all the things you could do, and sometimes delivering Excel-based tools, so kind of custom-built tools in order to solve the problem. And then in the autumn or fall of 2020, we won a grant from the UK government, so an innovation grant, that was linked to us starting to build out our first bit of code development. So we recognized this problem requires something more than consulting and more than Excel tools, because if you've got a team of salespeople, they won't use Excel tools. They just don't. You can't tell if they have used them. So even if they do use it, you've got no way of tracking it. So we had a vision of building out a digital online platform, something that integrates with CRM systems, which is kind of the only way to do it now. So end of 2020, we won a grant, started our first lines of code development. January 2021, we signed our first customer. March of 2021, we launched the first kind of MVP or beta version of the product, went live with that first customer. And now we're at 9 customers. So and the key thing is in between that. So March of this year, March of 2022, we took on our first round of investment. So the grant was really the first piece of investment, but the proper kind of startup investment from a combination of some angel investors and one or two VC funds. We took on that investment in March and have really then been ramping things up in terms of growing the team, growing the customer base, investing in the product, etc.
Nice. And how big is your team right now?
We have 10 full-time people, plus a selection of around 3 or 4 additional part-time contractors that are spread around the world. It's I find it incredible that again, this is the modern way of doing things. That we have a contractor that works with us in Argentina. We have a contractor that works with us in El Salvador. We have a contractor, and one of our co-founders is in the US. We have a contractor in Ukraine, a designer, somebody in Montenegro, and a selection of people in the UK as well. So we're quite geographically diverse, which is, I think, the right way of doing it.
It's impressive. Yeah, impressive. And I'd like to hear your backstory before founding Cuvama. So what did you do before?
So yeah, my backstory. I'm 43, so I've had a reasonable career already before I kind of found it. All of my career has been spent working with other software companies. Some UK based, some US based, some large public software companies. So one in particular was a company called Pros, who does pricing and revenue management systems for airlines and for manufacturing companies and things. But also worked for at least one venture capital backed San Francisco based software company as well. So I had a nice mixture of exposure to different types of software companies. And then within those, generally my experience has always been, I've primarily been on the sales side.
Yeah.
So I've done a little bit of helping to implement software, but primarily selling software for close to 20 years now. And as I said, as part of that, started to get into this kind of newer function called value engineering. So we have a customer value management platform, and often we will work with our users, often a salesperson, but sometimes a value consultant. So a lot of big software companies, Oracle, SAP, Salesforce, they have dedicated value consultant departments now. So I had that role at a couple of previous companies and started to get into that as well. So that's my background. And yes, and really, and kind of founding Cuvama was, it was opportunistic. It was a subject that I was passionate about. I'm really enthusiastic. I have a lot of passion for helping companies solve this problem. It's helping the customers in the market as well. This isn't just about helping the software company to be better. It's about creating a better relationship with the customer, with the end customer. So I'm passionate about this. It excites me. It frustrates me that it hasn't been solved for years before this.
Yeah.
And then there was an opportunity to work with my co-founder. A few things came together, and it was kind of something you just got to grab this, which is great. I'm so glad I did.
And I have just one last question. What's your favorite software?
So I heard you ask one of your previous interviewees this. It's a good question. I have 2 answers. So personally, for me, every single day of the week, I use a very simple bit of software from Microsoft called To-Do.
To-Do, I know it.
Simple, to-do list management bit of software. It's not rocket science, but it just works for me beautifully. And it's got this very nice, clever concept that you start each day with a clean to-do list. You haven't lost all the information, but you start each day with a clean to-do list. So it encourages you to actually think about what you have to do that day, rather than just rolling over your to-do list. And I'm terrible. I manage all of my work activity and all of my personal life activity in that to-do app, which is kind of ridiculous in some ways. So from a personal perspective, that's my number one favorite. And I think from a business perspective, we have had so much value from Jira, the product by Atlassian, that's used to kind of manage development and manage projects and things. We had an enormous amount of value out of that as a free product.
Yeah,
the amount of value that they give you as an early stage startup to use their product for free before you have to start to move on to their paid platform is incredible. So yeah, I think that's my personal favorite from a more like the business, the startup perspective.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for helping the sales community, especially in B2B SaaS.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you for the questions.